Hey guys, this is Abel with Redbeard Carpentry and Woodworks. I just wanted to do a quick tool review on this saw blade sharpener that I recently purchased from Harbor Freight. I believe the cost of this sharpener was about $45. I purchased it with a gift certificate that I received from my wife for Christmas, and I was curious to see how it would work, and thought I'd share my experience with you guys. So this is the saw blade that I'm planning on sharpening. It's just a 10-inch carbide tipped blade, and I just wanted to show you guys in real time how slow it's cutting. It's super dull, and so I figured this one would be a good practice to go ahead and start with. This is what the sharpener looks like right out of the box. I haven't done anything to it yet. So there was a little bit of assembly required. There was just this handle that had to be put on. It also came with a little shield protector to keep the sparks from hitting your face or your eyes. So the first step is setting your blade on the pivoting arm, and you just got to make sure you put everything on the same order you took it off. For example, the centering bushing goes first, your spring, washer, and then your knob. This little finger here is for moving the blade after you've sharpened a tooth. We'll get a little bit more into that. I just wanted to show you guys it's got to be loosened and moved out of the way, and then you start roughly getting the saw blade in position. It does require some patience. I mean, this thing is $40 from Harbor Freight, so you can't expect too much from it, but it actually does work. Here I'm just simply trying to work on getting the blade lined up with the carbide tips. You do have to play with it. It's kind of finicky. I later on explain just a little bit some of the problems that I end up experiencing with it, and some of the solutions that I came up with for helping out. So this is just a close-up. As you can see, I'm still working on getting the carbide tip aligned correctly with the blade, and so I'm just moving it along and eyeballing, making sure that the tip is actually flush with the blade. And once I get pretty close, I can go ahead and tighten down the blade itself to keep it from moving. So now, after the carbide tip is somewhat aligned with the blade itself, I was just checking the depth. It does have a collar with a set screw, so you can adjust. You can set the depth of how deep you want your blade to go in. And you don't want it to start digging into the metal part of the blade. You only want it to sharpen your carbide. So at this point, you're ready to go ahead and adjust the blade support, which is basically consists of a dowel that's got a thread at the end of it, and it basically just screws up for your blade to sit on, and you just butt it up. You don't really want to get too crazy tight with it, and it's got a nut at the bottom to use as a lock nut. Just go ahead and snug it up also. So at this point, we're ready to go ahead and start messing with the finger that toggles the blade. And so I'm basically just loosening everything up just a bit so I can get it to move around. And then we'll start working on getting it set. Now this is a little tricky, so it does take some practice. It does take a little time to get set. But if you're patient with it and just take a second to play with it, you'll figure it out. It's just got two bolts that have to be tightened once you think you've got it in place. This one takes a Allen wrench to tighten, and the other one is just a standard wrench. So to be a little bit more specific, what this is going to do is it's actually going to act as a stop. And so it's a little critical, and once you've done it a few times you get better at it, but it acts as a stop. So it also allows you to rotate the blade as you see here, and once the blade's rotated you bring it back and there it is, it's your stop. Now I'm not sure if you caught that, but the blade still had a little bit of a movement in it, as if it was still had some slack in it. So just to check things out, I tried just doing a dry run with the motor off and going ahead and going through the indexes, and definitely I noticed it wasn't repeating very well. I started with my blade just rubbing up against the carbide tooth, and after a few indexes I noticed that there was a gap in between, as if something was just not right. So I kept tinkering with it and finally figured out what the issue was. A problem that I'm running into with this thing is it seems like it's got a little bit of play in it, a little bit of slack. I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's got a little bit of movement in it. And these knobs are pretty tight. I've already tightened them as much as I can possibly tighten them by hand, but yet it still has a little bit of movement. So I think what I'm going to try is I'm going to loosen this bolt right here. It's got a thread on the bottom side of it right here into this block. I'm going to loosen this and move it over just a bit and readjust my blade and just try to shorten this up right here, the distance between the center of this blade and this right here. I'm going to try to shorten that up just a little bit and see if that'll just tighten things up a little bit and keep that little deflection right there from happening. I don't know if you guys can see that, but let's give that a try and see what it does. So after getting that adjusted, I definitely could tell the difference. You have to remember that this sharpener is made for a wide range of saw blades, not specifically one size. The blade I'm sharpening happens to be a 10-inch saw blade, but it'll get down as small as 6-inch, I believe, and up to a 16-inch, which is why I bought the thing, because I've got a 16-inch blade that I need to sharpen. So after finally indexing the blade several times, I decided it was repeating very well, and I was confident enough to go ahead and start sharpening the blade. So I just wanted to share with you guys that I didn't like the way this handle, the way its direction it's facing this direction, because the problem that I'm seeing, or that I'm encountering here, is that as I'm moving this thing along here, I've developed a habit of resting my arm on this motor right here. And when I do that, I keep on thinking, why is this thing getting so damn heavy? And it's because my arm is resting on the damn thing. So what I'm going to do is go and spin the handle this direction. That way I won't have the opportunity to lay my arm on this thing, and it'll move a little bit more freely. That's kind of dumb, but that's the issue that I'm encountering right now. So after making all of these adjustments, it was pretty much just smooth sailing from here. It's kind of funny because I ended up having to use my left hand anyways to index, or to move the machine back and forth, the sharpener itself, because if I'd used my right hand, I would cover up the shot, I'd cover up the camera view. And that's about it. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this thing out of the sharpener And if you haven't noticed already, it's got a lot of blue-green residue on it. And that's from me using this saw blade or this saw for cutting PVC pipe. And so I'm just taking a razor blade. I'm going to give it a quick cleaning, scratch most of this crud off, and go ahead and wipe it down with some sandpaper a little bit just to clean the faces off. And spray it down with a little bit of WD-40, and we'll toss her in the saw and see what it does. Overall, I was very impressed with the sharpener. For the price, you just can't beat it. And it sure does beat buying new saw blades. And the saw blade, I mean, it feels like it's just brand new. Very happy with it.